What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined. We are here to talk about the brand new iPad Pro versus Microsoft's Surface Pro 3, which has been on the market for a while. First, I want to shout out Oliver Freeman, one of our subscribers, who actually asked to have the video done to draw up the comparisons and have a conclusion at the end. Shout out to you, sir. Thank you for staying tuned. So let's dive right in. Look at the displays. The iPad Pro has a 12.9 inch display with a 4:3 ratio and a resolution of 2732 by 2048. The Surface Pro 3 has a 12 inch display with a 3:2 aspect ratio and an even lower resolution of 2160 by 1440. So Apple completely wins the beauty contest and the penis measuring contest with size. No disputing that there. And also I think if you were to look at the technology side by side, I am pretty confident that the Apple device would look a little better. They know what they're doing in terms of display and that entire retina madness. In terms of weight, the iPad Pro is 1.56 pounds and the Surface is 1.76 pounds. So the iPad is lighter. Looking at the hardware spec, coming down to the processor, the iPad Pro is sporting Apple's new A9X processor, which they're saying is desktop class, which they might have well have said desktop-like. Not quite desktop, but you'll like it anyway. And the Surface Pro 3 is sporting a i7 iCore desktop class, real desktop class processor. Now, the reason I say i7 is because a lot of people know the Surface comes in different flavors. You can get an i3, you can get an i5 or an i7. I think it's pointless to compare specs on a base model of these tablets. And the reason being is they both have the word Pro in the name. You get what I mean? I feel like if you're gonna sell somebody something that's Pro, it's a professional version. It's the balls to the wall version. Money's no object. Half the time, these people aren't paying for it out of their pocket. The businesses are buying it. Their companies buying it, or they're buying it for productivity that ultimately pays for that device many times over by the end of the month. So I don't subscribe to the notion that someone out there really cares about a base model of these things, other than the fact that it's an entry level for someone just itching to keep on the cutting edge of technology. So I'm looking at the top of the top, which I think is completely fair. So yeah, Microsoft's got that i7 processor, no match at all. I don't care how much silly stunts Apple pulls with whatever they were doing with that AutoCAD document and no, just stop. In terms of RAM, again, it's a landslide. In fact, we don't even know what's in the iPad Pro. Presumably it's 2 to 3 gigs of RAM, but that's not desktop class RAM, right? They would say nothing about that, or maybe I completely missed that part in the presentation, but I didn't say anything about RAM. And the Surface Pro 3 is coming home with 8 gigs of desktop class RAM. Again, no comparison. The Surface 3 wins there. You talking graphics, the A9X processor is supposed to handle a lot of GPU, well, all of the GPU lifting as well. Apple is just dope like that. They built their architecture the way they wanted it to be. One chip as opposed to another chip to worry about. And the Surface Pro 3 rocks with the Intel HD 5000 series graphics GPU. So again, a landslide. Can you play games on the iPad? Yes. Will it look good? Yes. But then there's full-blown PC games that you can also run on your Surface. A landslide. Coming down to the internal memory, the iPad, the largest available is 128 gigabytes. On the Surface, you're looking at 512 gigabytes, and on top of that there's expandable memory, so you can throw a chip in there and get even up to whatever those guys come with now these days. Looking at the styluses, the styli, is that plural for stylus? It's the same thing. The only difference here is Microsoft gives you the stylus, which they should. Apple does not, which Apple will do. Apple's charging $99 for theirs, and they refuse to call it a stylus. It's the Apple Pencil. Excuse you, the Pencil. So make of that what you will. If you look at the keyboards for these guys, Apple's got this dope design where they sort of baked the keyboard, the physical keyboard, into the smart cover. I thought it was pretty dope. Looking at the Surface, it's got pretty much sort of that smart cover-esque design, but it has a backlit keyboard. It has a trackpad, which I explained in the Apple video is so much of a pro. And a few of you guys, I know RD disagree with me, but let me get that out of the way. It's completely fair to disagree, because some people don't have a problem with reaching out and touching the display on their computer or their laptop. I do personally. I don't find it to be comfortable. When I'm in that productive position, I like to stay there. I don't want to offset it to reach up. But more importantly, there is no cursor. And for something you're selling me about productivity, yeah, I hear you got your pen, but you still need a cursor. This is what professional is about. When you put the pro in something, that's what I expect. So yeah, the Surface has a trackpad, the iPad does not. The Surface has more of adjustable angles due to the kickstand on the back. The iPad Pro is locked into whatever the smart cover is tilted at when it's all folded. And I mean, quite frankly, the smart cover looks a lot easier to remove and just become a native tablet. I'm sure the iPad Pro isn't much harder to get that keyboard off of there anyway, but we're comparing. Now, this, to sum it all up, again, Apple is trying to play the angle of productivity for the professional. And I think this is a battle that they just can't win. I don't care who they bring up from Adobe. I don't care who from Microsoft they bring on stage or what AutoCAD they show. There's just so many things that's wrapped up into this world of productivity. You know, Steve Jobs making that analogy of people being cars and then the creators being trucks. I mean, whatever. Simple things like, okay, Apple, you're telling me this is the Pro, this is the tablet for the professional, then how will I access my file architecture to organize all of my pictures I've been working on for a client? Because there's no file explorer in iOS. It ain't happening. Where would you like me to save those pictures? You want me to use your own Photos application to manage my pictures, to then pull them into an app for whatever Adobe's showing off? No, that's not rocking. I need a full-blown OS with access to a file manager and the ability to set up a structure of which I can work on. And you know, they still resorted to a lot of cheap tricks and a lot of marketing things like you can edit 4K on this iPad Pro. What they didn't say was that was 4K video shot with the camera that was on the back of that thing. How are you gonna get that 4K video on there if it's not something you shot with the shitty camera? If you're in the industry and you do videography, this is your living, how are you gonna get that 4K footage from your camera to your iPad? I mean, on a Surface, it's as easy as plugging in that USB 3 and dragging it off, or however you want to do that. Explain how you're going to do that on iOS. You know, it starts to get real dicey real quick. And then on top of that, there's still that bottleneck issue. 128 gigabytes of storage on something you're telling me is for professionals. Really, that's all you can come up with? You're showing me videos of you editing 4K footage. How much 4K movies do you think you can edit on an iPad Pro before you run out of that 128 gigabytes of RAM? It becomes a very interesting conversation. And you know, my overall thoughts is these devices are not in the same they're not in the same boat. They're no competition for each other. My rendition or my understanding or translation interpretation of what Apple say when they say Pro, the Pro iPad user. You know, there's things on this iPad Pro that the power user of iOS could never have done before. But there's nothing about the iPad Pro that I can see, and you guys hit the comments, you guys tell me different, that professionals can adopt and do their job. I don't see it happening. So at the end of the day, I know the entire industry wants to compare these things. That's what they do. They compare Apple to Microsoft, to Google, to IBM, to Lenovo, blah, 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 on and on. But these things aren't competition. I think you can go out and buy an iPad Pro, and then you can also go out and buy a Surface Pro 3 and be completely happy and have both devices work well in your tool set. And this, to validate that point, even if you're all in on the Apple ecosystem, I don't believe that you can be productive on this iPad alone. You still need a laptop, a MacBook Pro or a Mac Air, whatever it is. But hey, I hope, Oliver, I hope I answered your question. I don't think they're comparable as much as we would like to think they are. But you guys leave the comments below, like the video if you liked it, subscribe. We got a lot more content coming. We'd really enjoy it if you guys would stick around and support us. My name is Ramon. This is Lifestyles Defined. I am out of here. Peace.